The difference between our first and second visit as constituents and the legislator's first or second or third visit with somebody who's coming from HCAO. And one of the most important things to remember about our area and the people in this room is that we have a full range of legislators, ranging from the progressive to the arch conservative. And there is no one size fits all approach to your second and third visit. Although I would agree with Sam that the way to start with the first visit is on a very personal level. So some of our sitting legislators and pretty much all the Democratic candidates I met in the election are very supportive of single payer. How many people in this room have a Democratic representative, maybe even senator? And how many have a Republican representative and maybe, okay. I think we're just a shade over 50% Republican represented in this room. And those visits are going to be very different. Our sitting Democratic elected senators and representatives, well, it's basically one of each, and they centered in Ashland, already know a lot about single payer. They've already had first visits from a lot of people who have told them about their healthcare stories and asked them for their support for single payer. Some of our Republican representatives in our district, they never have had anybody visit them to talk about single payer. And certainly, the first thing that I want to do is ask everybody to think about your particular representative and your particular senator and where they stand and what you know about them. And then formulate the goals for your second and third visits based on where they're starting from and where you think you can move them. These vary, and if you, in a while I'll get to talking what those might be. So if you whip out this page called 9 Steps for Talking to Your Oregon Legislator that you got when you came here, it should be on your table. This is a compilation. I put it together from several sources, including one that said there were 4 steps, but I think there are 9 steps. Because what I want you to do today is start writing stuff down after numbers 1 and 2 on that list. The first question is, what do you want to know? You first think 2 questions are about research. You need to do some research about your legislator before your second visit, and you need to do some research about healthcare for all before your second visit. And that should be organized research, where you have questions that you want to answer. And so you do your research to find answers to those questions. So the first set of research will be about your legislator. And let me ask the room, what do you want to know? What do you want to find out about your legislator in this research phase before your second visit? What do you want to know? You want to know if they've been in legislature a while, how they voted on things that are related to universal health care. You know what else I want to know? I want to know before or while you've been a legislator in your local community, what local projects have won your heart? Did you help get a local small park? Did you help with a fundraiser for a charitable organization in your area? How are you connected to your community so that when you go in for your second and third visit, you can mention that and indicate that you support something that you know that your legislator already supports. Legislators are interested in community building and in charitable work, and that you take the trouble to find out what they've already contributed to, you could get on the same page with them, even if they are the Senate Minority Leader, or we've got a lot of prominent Republicans in our area. What else would you like to know about your legislator? Margie? Money, campaign money. Where they get their campaign money, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. You may not want to indicate to them that you know that, but that'll help you figure out some things about where they're coming from. Another thing I think you ought to know, we all ought to know, is what committees are they on? That'll indicate what other areas they're interested in. And since we're building a relationship, we care about this our representative as a person with more going on than just a chance to vote on a couple of healthcare bills every session, right? What else do you want to know? How about how old their kids are? How about how long they've lived in the district? If you're going to build a relationship, it's just like anything. It's worth it to do research to find out who they are as a person and who they are as a political actor. So that's 1A for me. What kinds of things do you want to know? And if you've got one of these papers and you write things down in the margins or the sides, that's good. Help to remember that. And what I hope is we will have HCAO legislative contact teams in every district in our area, and we can get together with the other people in our area, expand our lists and get a pretty good list for each legislator and share our knowledge about our legislators so that when we go for our visits, we're all up to speed. But part 1B on my paper is, where do you get this information? I put on the paper 2 online sources. One is the official state legislative source, which has, this is where you can find out their committee memberships, for example, and where you can find out their voting records. And you can find whatever information they wanted to put on their state page. And Ballotpedia is another national source that has good information on Oregon legislators. Is it on there? Ballotpedia.org. With both of them, I didn't type out, line long URLs. You can, if you're at all fearless with your computer, just get on there and poke around until you get the page for your legislator. They're in there, both of those big sources. So where else? Carol.
OpenSecrets.org.
OpenSecrets.org. Good, write that down. Talk to other people who know your legislator, right? Find out what they know. Does anybody live in a place that has a newspaper? Yeah? If you go back in their archives, you might be able to find some interesting stuff about your legislator. Okay. So I hope you'll write down what would be good sources for your particular legislator and be able to follow through on them with your team. To know what bills are pending and what HCAO's position on those bills are is a little different and it's a little easier. Just send an email to Charlie Swanson. His email is on this page. Tell him you want to get on the list for his information for legislative constituents. And here on the back of this 9 steps is an example of what Charlie sent out. These will be updated. If you get on that email list, they will be updated after the legislature is in session. This session, a number of bills are going to be introduced related to universal health care, some of which we're going to like, some of which we're going to hold our nose and pretend we like. But you can get the information on healthcare bills and HCAO's position on them just by subscribing to that email list. So what are your next steps? Step 3, if you're going to have a meeting, you got to schedule a meeting. How do you schedule a meeting? You call them up. You be persistent. If they don't give you a meeting, you call them up again. You call them up locally. You call them up in Salem. But you persist. You don't say, oh, they won't meet with me. And I think Sam Metz's suggestions are great. Your second and third meeting can also be in the coffee shop or in your living room. But you keep persisting in organizing the meeting. And if you can't even get to your legislator, but you get to their staff, often that is a very good thing. Not just second best, sometimes it's the best thing to get because you might get a more supportive staff member. When you're planning your second and third visit, plan what you're going to say and who will say it, rehearse, practice, stay within the time limits, and lead up each time to a specific ask. This is now about the goal, and the specific ask has to be tailored to who your legislator is. For a highly supportive legislator, we will probably have a bill and you want to ask that person to become a co-sponsor. That's a pretty high level. It's people who are really supportive, we're asking them to be our champions in the legislature. But that's what you do when you've got a dedicated person. You might have somebody, you just want them to agree to learn more. Agree to read a handout that you're going to leave. And in the worst case scenario, if you can get them to the point where they don't have a knee-jerk response, I don't support government takeover of healthcare. If you just get them so they will not say that anymore, that's progress. right? Or they say, it's going to cost too much, it'll bankrupt the state. If you can convince them that HCAO knows how it won't bankrupt the state, and in fact, our best thinking is it will save money for Oregonians. You can just convince them to stop saying, it costs too much. That's a victory. But you have to choose your goal based on who your legislator is. And that's what you find out in your first meeting and in all your research. So good housekeeping afterwards is to make your notes, keep a record. HCAO action follows legislative constituent contacts. You can send it in to HCAO action, follow up with a thank you note, plan to meet several times a year, and point 9, stay active as a constituent contact team. Ideally, and the reason I wanted you to sit in these groups is ideally you will have a couple of real good co-workers in your district who will help you continue the relationship with the legislator. The people who will do the core work. This is going to be different depending on whether you think there are 3 and only 3 people in your district who would support universal health care, or whether you live in Ashland and there are a horde of people who will be happy to show our legislators that we support single payer health care. But it is important not to be, Sam is right, do not plan your only meetings in the legislative session. For our supportive legislators, showing up in their office on lobby day is a good thing. Wear the t-shirt. Every time I visited an Ashland legislator, they said, wow, I'm so impressed that you took the trouble to come all the way to Salem. Yes, I know about you. I know about your organization. I know about what you want. And we're there and we're a sea of red in front of them. That's not going to be the case with every legislator. But for all legislators, it's important to meet with them outside of lobby days. Dave. It's on the February 1st, is it? Yeah. Okay. February 1st. I think we'll probably have a lobby day, but you should meet with them before that. Meet with them before, during every campaign, before and after every session. Those are good times. They expect to hear from you, and you can do it, no matter who they are. Talk to them about the ball field they love. Talk to them about the charity they love, and then tell them why universal healthcare is so important to you, and what you would really appreciate if they would do for the citizens of Oregon moving towards single payer healthcare. Do you have any questions? Bill and Shirley Walsh have some of those Republican reps, and they have been in constant contact with their Republican reps since they moved to our area. And they're going to do a little role play for us on what they did.
I'm Bill Walsh. My wife, Shirley Weathers, she has a different name, but we are separate people and have separate names. We're going to do a quick composite of both visits or of our contact with our legislator in the House, Representative Mike McLean. We moved here in 2013. We went up to Salem and did a lobby day, actually, and got to meet him. When we walked in, I'm playing us, Shirley's playing Mike McLean. Thank you for meeting with us today, Representative McLean.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Thank you for coming.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you, but I do have to say before we get started that we really only have maybe 10 minutes here, and I may be called out and have to go make a vote. So let's get started.
Okay. Well, we're constituents of yours.
Right, and you live where?
We live on the Butte Falls Highway, 1 mile up Butte Falls Highway in Eagle Point.
Do you happen to know Hank Rodemaker?
We do. He's just over the fence from us. Yes, we know him.
Really, I went to high school with him.
Oh,
Great guy.
okay.
Great
Yeah.
guy.
Well, we have a number of concerns, but we want to get into our healthcare concerns because that's the main reason why we're here. We were self-employed for 15 years, and we had to pay our own health insurance. So when you're self-employed, you pay the employer's part and the employee's part, and it's really crushing to a small business like ours. Now we're on Medicare. We love Medicare. We wish everybody had Medicare. We think since we got on Medicare and we're not as anxious as we were before, it really helped us out. And we believe that universal health care is something we want to keep working toward. We think Oregon's done a pretty good job, but we'd like to see it go further.
Well, I agree with some of your points. I can't go to universal health care, single payer. I'm not with you there. But I do want you to know that I voted for Medicaid expansion under the Affordable Care Act. Some of my colleagues called me rhino for doing that, but I did vote for Medicaid expansion. So I can agree with some of what you're saying.
That's great. Thank you for that. And then did you vote for the cover all children?
I sure did.
Okay,
That
thank
was
you.
another one.
Okay, our first meeting is over. How do we stay in touch so we're really get to share information?
Well, a couple of things. Email is probably the best way, but please remember, don't send me a whole bunch of papers. Don't send me attachments. Don't send me all that stuff. Keep it short and sweet. And always remember to put constituent somewhere in the subject line so that I can be sure and focus on your communication.
Okay, have a good day. So we left that meeting. Now we're in our second meeting. Representative, it's good to see you again.
Oh, hi. You know Hank Rademacher, right?
That's right. We're neighbors. So we wanted to talk today about a bill before you, Senate Bill 1046, which is a single payer bill. And we think we've had some input into that bill. We know it's before you. We hope you're going to be able to support it when it gets to the House.
Well, I'm going to have to look really carefully at that because I know single payer is going to cost a lot of money. And I don't think we have that kind of money. We're dealing with shortfalls already. So I'll just have to be honest with you. I kind of have my doubts that I'm going to be able to support it.
Okay, appreciate your honesty. Are there areas you think that the Republicans and the Democrats can agree, maybe in an incremental way? We're hearing a lot about pre-existing conditions. Do you want to address that problem?
Well, I'm kind of hoping that in whatever we do with healthcare, that we retain what we've got now in terms of pre-existing conditions. But I don't know beyond that. The single payer issue is kind of takes us in different directions that I have my doubts.
Well, the legislation does call for a phase-in, and it does call for a lot of study about where the funding can come from. It's not a done deal, I admit that, but we hope you'll be open to that, and we'll be giving you more information and sending you emails. It's a long way from Salem to Eagle Point, so we can't get up to see you too much, but we will be sending you information, letting you know where we think, and we hope you can be supportive of universal health care.
Well, I appreciate you coming. I know it's a long drive, but I really appreciate you coming, and I'll be happy to read whatever you send.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice day. Thank you.